Welcome to the channel. In this video, I'm going to be talking about the release of the Metro update into the stable branch. This happened on the 1st of December 2022. Now, this video is going to consist of three parts. The first part, I'm just going to talk about what was in the Metro update and give a little bit of background to each of the main features. Then the second part, I'm just going to speculate a little bit about what's going to be in the next update, which I'm going to refer to as the waste management update, because that's one feature that we do know that's in there. And then just to wind the video up, I will give any of you following the series an update of the current situation, because what I've been doing is playing on a little bit to catch up on some of the queued jobs, because my planning is getting well ahead of the amount of jobs that's going on. So let's just get into the first part. Yes, I can confirm that the Metro update has been released into the stable branch. Quite ironically, it was actually being released into the stable branch as I was recording the previous video. And I got a comment saying it's in the stable branch, and I thought, oh, and it's annoying. So what I've done is I've moved to the stable branch. And one thing that did happen when I loaded the game up was that I got notification of missing mods, and that's always a fearful message that you can get sometimes when you load across different releases. And what I did was I just said, okay, I'll just accept. And what I was expecting is to lose some key building or something, especially as the fact that the majority of the buildings on this map are mods. But as it turned out, I'd lost 2 vehicles, and I had a hunt round. I think I found one. I think I had, because there was a space missing in my police station here. I've obviously replaced it now. I got a feeling one of my police vehicles disappeared. As for the second one, I've got absolutely no idea where it was, but I've gone around and checked all my various distribution offices and all that, and I think it's okay. See, the problem I've got is, and somebody actually suggested that I look at the vehicle list here and also the distribution offices. You can get a list of buildings here. If you can look in come to here with the distribution offices, you can see how many vehicles are in each distribution office. In fact, we've got one there that's, where is that then? Oh, yeah, that's the distribution office that's still being built. Of course, the problem I've got is I've got such a mixture of vehicles in different distribution offices that it's I might have actually found it by accident. I'm sure I had 6 vehicles in here. So maybe I've lost a vehicle from here, but I think I've got the coverage. That's the aggregate truck. The rest are there. And we got a tractor. Yeah, the rest are covered holes and refrigerating trucks, I think. Yep. So maybe I lost a vehicle from there, but as far as I can tell, there's been no major damage. Anyway, that out of the way. So let's just talk a little bit about what's in the Metro update. I mean, it seems so familiar to me because I've been playing on it for, well, 3 months now. And the big major features of the Metro update, for anyone who's not familiar, is the introduction of Metro public transport system, proper trams as opposed to the synthetic trams we've been using by putting trams on railway tracks. There's also a couple of quite cool features that have been added to creating custom maps, and also the devs have created a Slovakia map which can be played on now as a default. And it's a very good looking map. I'll be honest, it's not my type of map because it's populated with a lot of the infrastructure in place, but for anyone who likes populated maps, then maybe that's quite good. What I want to do now is just very quickly go through the key features, a very top high level, so if anyone is not familiar with what these features are, just to give a bit of background, and also possibly some of the issues related to realistic mode. And we're going to start with metros. Now, I'm going to go out on a little bit on a limb here, and based on my experience by building metros in my Seven Crosses series, I think metros is probably going to be one of the biggest long-term investments that you are going to make in this game, because laying a metro system, especially an underground metro, because you can either run it on the surface like an elevated train or actually underground, and to be completely upfront, either way is a major investment, especially if you try and retrofit it into an existing city like I did in my Seven Crosses series. So Metros is something you've got to plan into a city, and it's only going to be in a large city. That simply because the main advantage of metros is the fact that if you've got a major industry, say we'll just use this as an example, very small example, but say you've got a major industry, say lots of coal mines or big heavy steel industry, and you've got to move large numbers of people, the metro system is probably the way to go. But what you're going to need to do is plan it into your city from the get-go. And probably for anyone who's going to be following this series, what we'll probably have is a metro system up here when I rebuild this city here, because round here we've got coal, iron, bauxite nearby as well. So what we're probably going to have here is quite a large industrial city here, especially if we bring the oil in. So what I'll be doing is choosing a city site, and then we'll be designing that city with the metro underneath it as well. And that also, and it's also worth noting that metros is very much a late game system, although you can get, if you really want to be adventurous and you want to do a surface one, and you've got the right mod, I come to the west, and if I show you here, you can get a metro here, which is an underground tube train from 1938. But the vast majority of metros don't come in until the late 60s, early 70s. It also applies a bit to trams as well. I think the only tram I've got is this S100, which came in 1928. Now, trams aren't quite so resource intensive, but again, there's something more that you're going to put into a large city where you want to move large numbers of people out towards industries on the border. And of course, the big difference with trams is, if I show you here, is it's actually in the road, and you can see these symbols here. And what you get is basically what you can do, if we just shove down a little length of track here, I don't have to build it. It's similar to trolley buses, but what you get is actual tracks underneath it, which you can then guide the tracks around. You've also got a concrete one. So say, for example, you want to connect two areas, but you don't want trucks and people to go through them. You've got this option here as well, which will allow you to run trams between two connections. Tram to railroad connector here, which means that you can actually, at a pinch, run on rails, but I don't think it's particularly that good, to be honest. It's something I wouldn't really want to use. Actually, we can just... Oops. Where's the... Oh, we need to get back to trams. And then we'll just cancel those plans and get rid of them. For anyone's interested in metros, what I'll do is I'll just show you very quickly, show the metros. The metro is actually in rail lines. And what you'll see is you get bridges over the track. I think you've got a metro track now, which was added late in the game. You can run the track on the surface. And of course, you've got the metro tunnels as well. Now, if you plan on building a metro system, there's a couple of things you need to remember. One is, especially if you're playing in realistic mode, you've got to buy your metro trains from the border, or if you're constructing them, from your construction factory. Now, metro trains will not run on rail track. So what you've actually got to do is build a depot. And this is where it's saying it can catch you out. You've got to build a normal train depot, like something like this. And then what you've got to do is you've got to connect up the, just to show it to you very quickly. What you've effectively got to do is come in here, and you'd have the, say, you have the rail tracks coming in this side. And then what you've got to do is go out the other side with the metro track. So what you've got to do then is have a train which will go to the customs office and tow the metro train through a rail network into the depot. Then at the depot, because you've got the metro track coming out the other side, the metro train can then just run through onto its actual metro track and run underground. Even if you're building an underground metro system, at one point, in order to get the trains into the system, what you've got to do is have a surface to underground transition. Now, the only other thing I will also show you related that, and this also applies to trams, is that putting signals on metro lines is going to be difficult. And of course, you can't put signals on trams. So what you've actually got to do is use these end stations. And with the metro, you can put one underground and one on the surface. If you look at the trams, we come down to depots, you will find that there's where is it? You can get tram end stations like this. I think there's a large and a small version. And what these end stations do is they actually provide the spacings for your tram network. So if you're building a tram network or a metro network, you do need to include these end stations into your overall plan. And of course, and I think that then is a good segue into the other big feature of the metro update, which is realistic mode. This is what I'm currently playing on this game here. Now, if anyone's not sure what realistic mode is, realistic mode imposes a number of restrictions. Most important thing is that if I come in here and try to manually build this, it says in realistic mode you can't build buildings and infrastructure, only with the construction office. So there's no auto build. Also, if we go into here and we go up to here, you will see that you can't auto purchase everything. So that's the two biggest restrictions of realistic mode. And of course, more importantly, like I've already just demonstrated, that if you want vehicles, you've got to buy them at the border and move them into the map itself. And of course, as you spread across the map, having to purchase vehicles at the border becomes a bigger and bigger issue. Because of course, if you say, for example, you want to set a bus route up in, say, this town here, which is near the center of the map, technically what you've got to do is bring the buses all the way from the border to there, to a depot, before you can actually set the route up. And of course, what you need to do is provide all the necessary gas stations to get them into the center of the map. So that's something that's quite important. And the other thing also is you can only buy Soviet vehicles at Soviet customs posts, and of course NATO vehicles at Western customs posts. So it means if you're starting on the side of the map, you've only got a connection to the Soviet border, effectively all your Western vehicles are unavailable. And of course, what that means is that if you start a game and you've got $1 million, you can't spend it in realistic mode until you get to a NATO customs post. The only thing left to talk about in the Metro update is a couple of changes to the custom map. The first one is the ability now to edit the border and also change the border nation. So we're no longer restricted to the box. Now, I've made a couple of small changes to this, but if you go into the workshop, you'll find there's some pretty good looking maps already being created with some pretty way out borders around them as well. And of course, you've got the Slovakia map, which the devs have added to the Metro update, which has got a border that represents the actual borders of Slovakia. Now, the other feature, I'm not sure if I can be able to show it to you, is water erosion mode, which I use quite extensively on this map. What that is that you can either apply it to the whole map or sections. And what you do is once you've got your main map laid out, what you do is you apply the water erosion, and what that does is soften all the contours. And probably the best example of how effective water erosion is here. Now, if you normally, what would happen is, if any of you watched my Divided series, which I did a couple of years ago, you end up with very steep canyons, but by applying water erosion, you can get these nice cut through, almost looks like natural canyons that have been cut down by the river. So this is what's actually being done. Now, for any of you who want to build a custom map, I'll give you two tips. One, before you apply a map-wide water erosion, don't put any trees down, don't put any infrastructure down, because what will happen is the map will get eroded. Then you'll find you'll have trees floating in the air and also roads. So what you want to do is create your map, get the raw terrain the way you want it, then apply the water erosion tool. The other thing I would say is that before applying the water erosion tool, drop a save. And the other one is that if you apply it to the whole map with maximum change, it will really hit your machine hard. So if you've got a fairly weak machine, what I suggest is that you don't actually use the complete map change. What you do is use the second option, where you can actually individually edit sections. And what the way that tool works is that, say you want to get a bit of extra water erosion on this area, you just select that second option and then you just paint that area in. So what I'm going to do now is just move on to talk a little bit about the next update. Now, I've got no inside knowledge. I can only tell you what I know. So I'll talk about what we definitely know is going to be in there, and then also what is being suggested in the roadmap, which may be in there. Now, the big change of the next update, which is why it's almost guaranteed to be referred to as the waste management update, is the introduction of waste management within your cities. Now, I haven't made it obvious during this Let's Play, but what I've kind of been half doing is trying to reserve a couple of areas on the map to put waste management buildings in, like this area here and possibly up here, because at the moment I've got no idea, or even in this area here, because at the moment I've got no idea how extensive the coverage will be, because as far as we can know is that the waste management system will work in a similar way to water, that you put down a waste collection system and then that will be connected in the same way as water and sewages to there, and then your waste trucks will come in and collect the waste from those buildings there. And then what will happen is there'll be different modes, but if you go for the full mode, what you'll be able to do is take that waste away. You either put it in a landfill site, hope it goes away, or you'll be able to recycle it. So that is the waste management one. Another small feature that appeared in the Community Report 63 is the outliner, because what happens at the moment is if you click on a building, it goes yellow like this. Now, what their devs have done is that this will be outlined in yellow instead of just going yellow. And hopefully, and what that will mean is that you'll be able to see the building a little bit clearer of what's going on. So that's the two confirmed features that are in the next update. Now, looking at the roadmap, there are a number of other features which are mentioned. Now, it's worth noting that what the devs seem to have done is combine the next two updates in the roadmap into one. So it's a bit difficult to tell what is going to be included. Now, but looking at the roadmap, and in some ways the devs have already confirmed this, is there will be new research. And I'm guessing that will be tied to waste management. But I also get a feeling that it may be tied to some of our existing technologies as well. But I've got no inside information on that. Another thing which I would really like to see, especially from the point of view of playing realistic mode, is small, medium versions of key buildings. Hopefully that will come in, but if you're playing on realistic mode and you're starting with 1,000,000 rubles, it doesn't go very far if you're starting in 1960, because you've got to build these big buildings. Now, strangely, an early start is actually a little bit easier, because obviously with an early start you start with lots and lots of mods which have smaller versions, like this courthouse here, where if you compare that with the courthouse in Crime and Punishment, where is it? I mean, if you're going from the get-go and you're going to build something like that, you can see that's got 290 tons of prefabs, 29 tons of steel. I mean, these are major buildings. It also applies to universities as well. So if we come into, where is it? Universities. The university buildings are big. So if they do add small and medium buildings to the actual base game set, that will make a big difference. And what I will promise you guys is that if they do that, once this series ends and I start a new series, what I'll probably do is see if we can actually start in 1960 with the smaller buildings, on hard start in realistic mode, of course, because I think from going forward now, I'm always going to be playing realistic mode. And finally, the other thing is they're actually saying new vehicles as well. Now, they've elaborated what those new vehicles are. I've got a feeling that they might come from mods, but what it might mean is we may get a wider range of vehicles that we can play with in the game. So I think that covers the new update, that covers the future, and if that's what you come here for, that's the end. Now, what I will do for anyone who follows the series is just give you a bit of an update, because we're strolling into the 31st of October 1939, and I think we're rapidly approaching winter. Now, what I've been doing off camera is literally just trying to get the buildings built. And while I've been talking, we've actually built this here, there. Now, with winter coming, what I'm finding is it's taking a lot to get stuff down to here. Now, what I've been looking at is this gas station I built here. I think I've really put it in the wrong place because I put a power station here. So what we're going to do is just move that gas station, put it there, which means we're going to have to redo that road. You can see this will be in range of the power supply here. And we'll just knock that down. I mean, we haven't just wasted a little bit of asphalt, that's all. Down here, I'm getting quite a different problem with range. You can see here that this is going very slowly. The problem is the distance it takes, and of course with winter coming, it's going to be a bit of a problem. Actually, just speed's going up now, I think. So I think what I'm going to need to do is during the winters, we're going to have to pull back general construction to this area. So to that end, what I've done is I've got these guys building this. I think what I will do is also assign that and just build this last housing accommodation during the winter. The other thing I've now finished is my tech office here, but I've put 4 snow plows in here because of course in the last winter we lost this aggregate store. So that's this situation doing. The harvest is coming in quite well. Just see how well things are going. Yep, we're still getting quite a lot of crops coming into here, and more importantly now we're getting crops into this area. This is now full now, and we've started producing some food here. Because we're coming into winter, I'm not sure we're going to get a regular number of workers here. So what I'm going to do is we're going to just let this run through the winter, and then once we get into the spring, what I'm going to do is stop supplying crops to this area here, so that this food factory will then effectively shut down. And what I'm hoping is that they're going to come down to here and we'll supply the food from this area. But I'm going to leave the food factory there in a dormant state just in case we start to get food shortages long term. The orphanage here is finished. We're still getting overflows of children, but I don't think it's quite as bad as it was before. Just see. Where's the orphanage? It's here. Sorry, wrong one. It's almost like the number of children expands in direct relationship too. But now we do now have a population of 2,585. I've also completed this kindergarten down here. So we've now got 3 kindergartens. If we look at the unemployment, I've still got an unemployment of 0. So we're certainly going to need to work more on this area here. We're also working on this distribution office here. I think that's about it, guys. As I say, what I'm going to do is I'll play through the winter, see if we can get some of these outstanding buildings built. And then in the next part, what we'll be doing is use in the upcoming year to try and get this labour camp, or as much of this labour camp built as possible. Possibly get this sewage done. We now need to get this built. And of course, more importantly, we've got to get our underground cables built so that we can actually start to move people in here. But this is where I'm going to leave it. Hope you enjoyed the episode. Hope you found it interesting. And until next time, whatever you do, enjoy your gaming.